Right then, welcome to the second panel of the day, which is eSports, the opportunity behind the hype. This is going to look at whether there is actually a commercially viable market that's big enough to make the time and effort worthwhile. For this panel, we have Alex Carr, who is the affiliate program manager for Pinnacle, not Pinnacle Sports, apparently. Yeah, not anymore. And on the far side, I have Luke Cotton, who is the head of analytics, data and insights for digital fuel marketing. I think the best thing to do is hand over to these guys and just sort of introduce themselves in a little bit more detail and say where they're coming from in relation to esports, basically. Should we start off with Luke? Luke looks ready to go, so off you go, Luke.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so I'm Luke Cotton. I'm head of analytics, data and insights at Digital Fuel Marketing. We're a marketing agency. We work with a number of clients in the betting and gaming world and also in the esports world, be those esports specific operators and some more mainstream operators that are offering esports betting as well. Further to that, I've been in esports for 11 years. That's where I started out a long time before I was in the gambling industry as a player, then managing teams, running events and all sorts. So yeah, away from that, now away from the day job, I have a number of affiliate sites focused on esports betting, most notably csgobetting.com, and yeah, working on a few other things in the esports realm as well.
So that one? Any luck? Just speak into it, it should start working. Just grab that one from, sorry.
Third time lucky. Hi everyone, I'm Alex Carr for Pinnacle. I'm affiliate program manager. Pinnacle were the first to take an esports bet back in 2010. Since then we've developed quite a lot. We've improved our products and progressed so much that it's now our 5th most bet on sport. In February we're projected to take our 10 millionth bet. And yeah, it's a phenomenon that I knew nothing about until I joined Pinnacle, and then I had no choice but to learn about it because it's such an important, heavy market for us, and everything we do is invested around esports betting.
Okay, fantastic. I think what I want to kick off is the scale of the opportunity, really, and how big is this market, you know, and what's the opportunity for affiliates? I mean, I've read that bookies such as William Hill's only turn over 1 million a year on esports betting, but obviously guys like Pinnacle and Betway have focused a lot more, put a lot more behind it, and they're obviously doing a lot better. And obviously got the esports only guys like Unicorn as well, who I think Rahul Sud said they're esports only bookmakers, the only ones who are going to make a go of it in the long term. I'm just wondering, what is the size of the opportunity, do you think? I mean, is it, and what is it equivalent to? How does it compare to the other verticals?
I mean, I won't talk about someone else's profit and loss or turnover, but from Pinnacle's perspective, we do more than that in a single day than that quoted figure for William Hill for a year. In terms of betting opportunities, it's now grown to the point where it's our 5th most bet on sport. So it's overtaken ice hockey in terms of bet count. In terms of bet volume, it's growing exponentially. Initially, our player values was a percentage of what we get from a traditional sports player. Now it's up there rivaling it. It really is a phenomenon that is... No, it's gone beyond a phenomenon. It was a niche, and now it's a reality that's happening. It is every day that you get these major tournaments coming through. It is a market where we're looking to try and transgress people from a certain demographic who were bettors but don't know about esports into this new opportunity just purely because of the vast array of betting opportunities that exist. It is, yeah, it's an everyday opportunity for the punter, for the affiliate, for the operator.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously what Alex is saying is excellent, and it's really promising to hear another bookie with a success story that, you know, is proper money, right? I actually read something, and this is something we were chatting about beforehand, where I think these guys were going along with the £1 million turnover figure for William Hill, which was reported in the industry press somewhere. William Hill actually said somewhere else that they turn over £15 million a year. Now, I saw that and I was a bit shocked by it because they have a really crap betting product on their website. So why anyone would bet on esports with William Hill at the moment, I don't know. And if they're doing even the £1 million a year volume, that to me is very promising because, you know, this is not something that punters are going to. Like, they're not going to the traditional bookies because the product is really bad. And for me, that's the opportunity. And this is something that's changing, and obviously you've got your more emerging bookies, like your Betways are obviously doing really well around that. But for me, it should be a number 3 sport in the UK market, which obviously is, kind of what most people look at as kind of the barometer. It should be going horse racing and soccer and then esports. And I think that should be reflected in other markets as well, as particularly across Europe, especially given kind of how esports in the UK is a lot less developed than in markets such as Germany, Poland, France, Scandinavia as well. And these are the kind of markets where it really kind of has untold potential, and where there aren't necessarily your kind of huge passions behind racing as well, which obviously drives a huge amount of turnover in the UK. In terms of kind of where the opportunity is, I think it is there for the traditional sports books. I actually don't think the opportunity is for your esports only people. I think that there's a lot of crossover between the punters that I think we'll come on to in a bit. But at the moment, there's a lot of esports focused rather than only operators, that I think is really where the market is. You kind of got your EGBs, your GG bets, these kind of operators, which most people haven't heard of, but they're really kind of who are leading the way, kind of alongside Pinnacles and Betways.
Okay. The recent skin betting scandal showed that millennials, the holy grail demographic of millennials, do bet in large volumes, just not sort of via the conventional means and channels. It sort of dwarf the betting activity you find via the sort of traditional channels. And what can operators learn from that? The way that these this audience was built for betting. What I mean? How can the product be adapted to appeal to this audience? How can the marketing be adapted as well to kind of bring in these volumes of millennials that seem to be out there for somebody who has the right product for esports betting?
Yes, there's really 2 things that are crucial here. So number one, and this is something that Pinnacle know because they do it really well, is that esports betting isn't actually a thing, right? You don't have esports betting. You have CSGO betting, you have League of Legends betting, you have Dota betting. Like, if we were having this conversation here about the opportunities in sports betting, everyone would be going, well, what are you talking about? There's football betting, there's rugby, there's tennis, there's golf. And that's the exact same for esports. It's just an overarching term. And that's really the number one thing that you have to understand before kind of starting in that market. Number 2, you absolutely have to be authentic. You have to talk to the people in the right language. You have to offer them suitable product. At the moment, you still get operators who put up markets for, let's say, day 1 of a competition in the morning, right? It starts with a group stage. Essentially, most esports tournaments are kind of like a mini World Cup in terms of the format. You start with some groups, then you have a knockout stage, right? So they put up the groups, the prices for the groups, everyone has a bet, brilliant. Then the next morning's meant when the quarterfinals are, they'll price those up as well overnight. And then later that day, they play the semis on the same day, no odds. Okay, well, the punter wants to have a bet on the semi-final because they've watched the whole tournament, and then they're gone. So these are basic things that bookies like Pinnacle, the game finishes and the next game is being started 20 minutes later, they're up with the odds straight away, but lots of firms aren't. And that's really critical. If you want to keep your punters, you have to have the product for them to bet, and that in turn shows that you respect them and respect their business, which again is crucial.
Completely agree with what Luke said. To reiterate the point, you can't expect a generic content writer to be able to produce solid value-added content on esports betting if they don't know the product. It's the nuances between knowing the difference between a hero and a champion based on the game that they're playing, based on little trinkets about the game, about, I don't know, what a blink dagger is. You need to know the game inside and out to be able to talk about it, because the esports community, they're obsessed with their individual game. As Luke was saying, you wouldn't get somebody playing Dota 2 and League of Legends to the same degree. They would have a preferred game. You don't get people following CSGO and Dota 2 because there's so much to learn about each individual game, each map, each item that you need to dedicate yourself. Speaking to people that have played 3,000 hours on a single game and they're still learning, you can't speak to them in a generic manner. You can't trick them in fooling that you know what you're talking about if you don't. You need to go out there and hire the casters that are streaming the game, hire the content writers that are writing for the magazines, get people who have influencing in the community. And that's the best way to approach people, because you will be found out. You don't want... I could write a brief on how to get a free bet on soccer because I'm a soccer fan. trying to do the same at the same level to somebody in Hearthstone would be impossible. I mean, the level of knowledge I have on Hearthstone is minor compared to the dedicated players that you get, the competitive players. And that's what people want. They want the competitive players to be able to release knowledge back to them and to be able to talk to them on the same level. And they're the guys you're trying to reach out to produce the content. It's not something that you can do from a generic standpoint. You need the specialist to be able to work alongside you.
Okay. Are they difficult to find?
No, they're readily available. I mean, there's people writing in communities and forums and blogs everywhere. This is an online industry, and eSports is an online sport. There's thousands of blogs. They're not all good, but there are people and influencers and casters that are readily available on Twitch or CS:GO Lat. Like, there's literally hundreds.
Okay. You already touched on it a little bit, Alex, earlier, Alex. I mean, can eSports customers truly be as valuable as traditional sports betting customers for affiliates and for operators? I mean, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. When I joined Pinnacle 2 years ago, the value of an eSports customer was significantly less than what we get from a traditional sports betting customer. In those 2 years, that's changed.
Okay.
Partly because of the time that we've had to allow those customers to mature, but partly as well because of the product that's offering. Alongside the fact that though we're now reaching out to more people as eSports becomes exponentially popular, there's nothing stopping an eSports player being as valuable as a traditional sports player. Initially, there was a demographic of the typical eSports customer being somebody that is interested in eSports, and then we try and convert them into a betting customer. But there's also the demographic of people that are interested in betting who are finding their way into eSports to try and get an edge. So that you don't have to be a dedicated eSports fan to be someone that's betting on eSports. If you can explain to your generic bettor or your generic customer that if you can explain to them the game so they can understand it, so they can see if they can get an edge, give them stats, statistics, content, everything they would need to make an informed choice on the bet or the market, then sure, that you can convert from both sides, and that's where you really get your value.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the value is going to be of esports punters over time. I think that's when we have to wait and see. But I mean, in terms of what they're doing in terms of betting, look, from what I'm seeing, it is lower, kind of lower individual bet volume customers, so their average stake is lower. But on the flip side of this, what you have in esports is you essentially have a set of Premier League fixtures in one game every single day, probably about 5 days a week at least. So your possibilities for retention and increasing bet count are massive, because they want to watch games every day, every evening. There are games back to back for 6 hours between Premier League level teams. So there's huge opportunities in terms of betting. For me, where I see the huge opportunity in terms of value, and this is something that we've seen with the skin betting sites already, rather than with the traditional bookies, is cross-sell to casino. People love this. They love gambling skins in roulette-style games and all sorts. So yeah, there's definitely potential there as well, which is obviously kind of the holy grail in terms of recruiting traditional sports customers and crossing them over to casino. That can absolutely be done. But I think really your other thing is, what is a traditional sports customer and how is that changing as well? Because I think that over the past kind of 5 years, there's been obviously a huge shift towards soccer customers, and they're a lot lower value. Your new 18-year-old kids that are coming through, that the next generation of bettors are betting £2, £5, £10 accas every week. So that's, with your bookie, that's going to end up about 50 quid on average a year player value. And, is this your new customer, and are you going to get that out of esports punter? Yeah, absolutely. Are they going to be, top VIPs spending thousands in huge volumes? Probably not, but there are definitely going to be some through there. And as kind of the people that come through in esports as fans at this age that are quite young, obviously, as the demographic get older, have a higher disposable income, there's going to be money there to be won off them.
Okay. So you've touched on it a little bit. I mean, the demographic for esports, for betting in esports across the various esports, it is skewing towards that millennial kind of access. It is a younger audience that's betting on esports. Or are you finding that that the appeal is spreading beyond that into traditional sports betting audience, or is it just that's something Alex has had on?
Yeah, I mean the majority is the millennial demographic, but by no means is it exclusive. We literally have customers ranging from up to their 60s who are betting on esports. It's not an isolated demographic where you can't reach out to people late 20s, early 30s, those with expendable income. It's about how you market it. If you look at it as a sport where there's betting opportunities and you can educate them and give them an edge, then you're going to get your traditional bettors coming through. If you're marketing it purely to those who are interested in esports and then you're marketing the betting as a sort of a side product of it, then yes, you are going to be attracting those who are of the younger generation.
Okay. I mean, why aren't more affiliates getting involved in esports in this space in greater numbers? Are the lifetime values of the esports bettors still an issue here? Because I read a while ago that lifetime values are still significantly shorter than your conventional, traditional sports bettor.
But that's what we found is because it's still a new product. The lifetime value of the customer is increasing as we're continuing to offer the product. Previously, we'd see a lower value, but those players are maturing as we're maturing, and we're getting more value out of it. We don't offer the same depth of market as we do with, say, a soccer game, but we found that it's not first kill that people want. They want the traditional map betting, or they want the 1x2. That's what we found has been generating over 80% of all the turnover. And so because of the... Sorry, train of thought gone. So because of the fact that we can educate these people, and it is an ever-growing process, that's how we found the lifetime values growing as we're continuing to educate. You can't expect people to just teach themselves. They come to you as an authority, they're placing their bet with you. You need to be able to help them along the journey and educate them in terms of enjoying what they're doing with the esports betting.
Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of why people aren't getting involved, obviously it's a harder question. I think that probably a key reason for that is that on paper it looks like search volumes are quite low. I think probably Google underestimates that slightly in certain areas, and I'll go into that in a second. I think the second thing is the fact that it's just a lack of knowledge from affiliates. Like, you can be good at SEO and be a great affiliate, and if you are, is esports betting going to be your number one target? Probably not. And even further to that, it is the expertise around the esports and the individual games, because it is very important to talk to these people in an authentic way. Kind of the 2 points kind of tied together a little bit in that it's also really hard to convert traffic into esports punters. So I have csgobetting.com, which has over time been from number 1 for the term CSGO betting through to second page, kind of it fluctuates a bit. And what I find with that is that I can get loads of traffic, and converting that into new customers is really, really hard. Like, if I had the same site and it was for tennis betting, I wouldn't be sat here on the stage at the moment. I'd be, either wandering around out there or probably sat on an island somewhere, because that's kind of what you're seeing in terms of traffic and converting it at normal rates. Then, yeah, I'd be a rich man. And that's really a problem. And I think that is something where I don't necessarily have the answer. I wish I did. I think that part of that is that what customers are looking for is, obviously in certain games, is skin betting, which is a regulatory, very murky area, and it's something that if you're in a European country and you're living in the UK or Germany, you probably don't really want to touch. Whereas if you're in Antigua or Curacao or somewhere like that, that'd be what I'd be doing, because there is the opportunity there. But yeah, I think it's probably on the surface, it doesn't necessarily look like an opportunity that's as big as it is. And secondly, yeah, it's just having the knowledge in order to write compelling content and convert customers and know where you want to send them to make money.
Okay. You kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, what can an affiliate do to make their site stand out from the other esports focused affiliate sites? I mean, you touched a lot on content. I mean, are there other sorts of areas as well? I mean, how does a site need to be set up? How does a taxonomy need to work? How do those aspects need to work?
Yeah, it really depends on what kind of affiliate site you want to be. Do you want to be a top 10 list of sites and get traffic through search that way, get it in, churn it out? It's hard to convert customers. Do you want to be kind of an all-encompassing something new? I don't know. But it seems to me more that the opportunity is for kind of your existing esports sites to turn more and more betting, as some of them are doing. Feature-wise, there's absolutely things that aren't being done, like live score, for example, isn't a thing for affiliates. It is for the games themselves. Kind of all have a main community hub, which is where people will go. What would I be doing if I was coming to this? Kind of without the esports background that I have, I would absolutely go and either hire or partner with somebody that knows esports and somebody that truly gets it, and somebody that obviously gets the affiliate side of things a little bit as well, or at least is a personality in the space and that can add some credibility to it. It's hard otherwise, I think, and it's also hard to gauge whether what people that you're hiring are saying is good or a load of rubbish, really, if you don't know what you're looking out for yourself.
I think that's a very, very good point. Something like live score is something that's not being done. I mean, I can think of half a dozen sites that are doing that at the moment, if that, and they are the authority on each of those games. I think even offering betting previews on, as Luke said, the majority of the Premier League level games, that's not being done. You can see past results, you can see schedules, but actually sort of someone providing content where you can go and you can read and you can get an interpretation of what's happened and why you should bet on this team if that map's being played. That's something it's very hard to find as a casual user. That should be something that should be ever apparent for someone who's trying to get into esports. You've got to make it easily accessible. You've got to make the content and knowledge that's so widely available through the forums easy for the newcomers to come through. And if you've got that and you've got the traffic and the volume, then yes, it is difficult to convert esports customers. But I do believe there is gold in those mountains. I do think it will come to a point where betting becomes a far more normality, like it is alongside soccer with the esports customers. And I think the way providing that content, providing the accessibility, providing the streams to watch these games, that's something that's all done, but they seem to be on separate sites. Nobody's amalgamated all this information for the new customer, for the person that we're trying to convert.
Okay. Luke touched on it a little bit earlier. I mean, how is the keyword kind of landscape for our esports bet at the moment? I mean, what are people?
Search isn't obviously really the primary web place that people are. I mean, people are obviously searching for terms around betting on each of the games and that. Is there opportunity in the long tail? No, I don't think so. I've no interest in going after long tail terms myself, which obviously means that there's traffic there. It's the challenge is converting it and providing the user what they want, and I don't think anyone's cracked that yet, and I don't know at what point that tide turns necessarily. It's up. I mean, it's a difficult one because, to be honest, I don't know why that is as well. Which is, it's not a question of if I had X money, I would go and do this, that, the other, and all of a sudden I think my problems go away. It's very hard to know what's causing people to sign up with the various bookies or not sign up. In terms of the landscape, so I think it's short tail. I think it's game name plus betting. If you do want to get into it, come speak to me. I've got a lot of domains that are very nice that you can come and buy for an unreasonable price. There's opportunity there. At some point, I think it explodes. What point that is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Pinnacle are doing very well. We're very successful in esports betting. Unfortunately, I can take zero credit for that because it's something that we've been doing for 7 years and it's just grown exponentially. Okay. It is difficult to convert sports. We do get thousands of visitors to affiliate sites, and you get a few percent that do convert into depositing players. That's because a lot of the people go to watch the streams, they go to learn about what's been happening in the press with their favourite teams, looking at the schedules for the next games. So actually directly converting from an affiliate site, the percentage is lower. In terms of how it ranks in the search engines, I'm going to leave that to Luke, and the answer that he's provided I thought was quite thorough.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, just to add one thing on that, so that kind of Alex said that you've got these sites which aren't the betting sites, they're community sites. Now on one of those sites, the biggest CS website, they have a match page for each match. So every single match, there's probably about 30 on today of all levels. Some are in tiny competitions, some are in big competitions. Prizes range hugely. Now underneath all those things, they've started doing odds comparison. They sell the advertising on there. Now underneath, so you get the 1x2 odds. It's not a grid like Odds Checker, it says Bet365, 1.5 this team, 3.0 the other team down. They've got about 8 bookies. Now on some of those, if the API isn't there, so if the odds aren't up for a game, they put a new customer message instead, so bet 10, get 20. Now on some of those, you can see the number of clicks out because they just use a bit.ly link, and there are not a lot of clicks, and that's not a lot of customers for people to be acquiring from that advertising. And this is kind of the prime space as to if you were a new operator going in today going, where can I talk to Counter-Strike fans and people that want to bet on Counter-Strike? This is the place. And again, yeah, it's this thing of what makes somebody go through to an operator, which is something which Pinnacle have kind of got down to it, and maybe they have the secret sauce. I mean, I think part of that is just the reputation that they've built up over time, and kind of they're seen as a little bit of part of the furniture in terms of esports betting. Whereas some of the other operators, why people go or don't go there, if they're going to click something along the way, yeah, that's obviously a bigger question.
Touching on what Luke's just said, making Pinnacle part of the furniture for esports betting, it sort of relates back to what we were talking earlier about getting authoritative figures to write content. Half our trading team are ex-pro esports players. They are the ones who integrated and brought esports to the CEO and said, we should be offering odds on this. It wasn't something we did because that's where the industry was going or the market was moving. We purposely sought out ex-Magic the Gathering players, ex-esports players, and to be the authoritative figure on what's happening in the esports. They're the ones that are setting the lines. They're the ones that are trading. They're the ones that are able to see whether a game is winning or losing from the amount of XP that's been generated rather than the number of kills. They're the ones that have embedded themselves within the community. It's not just about being a genuine content writer, it's about being genuine throughout the company, and that starts at every single level.
Okay. And what happens, obviously, with the skin betting last year, with Valve pulling the API and kind of closing that down, is that market still active? Is that audience still out there? Or is that, I mean, Luke might have a good idea of that.
Yeah, it's still out there. Absolutely. So you don't really get the 1x2 winners like you used to get. Like a year ago, the pool size on CSGO Lounge, which is like the big skin betting site. So skins, if you don't know, are virtual items in the game. Essentially, why do you buy a suit from Prada rather than Primark? It's basically the same, but within the video game. Now, these skins have a value. You can basically buy them through kind of an in-game slot machine. Don't tell the people that made the game I said that. And then you can sell them on third-party marketplaces as well. So these skins have a value. And there were sites, particularly the big site was called CSGO Lounge, where they had tote pools on each game, and the turnover on here was ridiculous. I mean, you're looking at like $1 billion a year turnover based on the item values. But basically what happened is the pub that was reliant on a mechanism that the publisher enables, and they basically flicked a switch to say, no, you can't do this anymore, and shut down that site and around 40 others. Does it still happen? The match betting, not really. There are a few sites. The casino style sites, yeah, they're still out there as well. It's one of these things where it makes the publisher money, so they don't want to shut it down, but they also are aware of the regulatory pressure around it. So it's kind of ebbs and flows. And yeah, they are still turning a blind eye absolutely to some of the sites deliberately. There are others where they still shut them down, but it's a lot more quiet, or not necessarily shut down, but they just make it very hard for them to operate by kind of disabling the mechanism. There are workarounds, but yeah, it still happens, but it's a lot less prevalent. You have seen that effect in a drop on viewership on these games. They haven't all shifted these customers over to real money. They're out there somewhere. And I think that what's happening now is that basically your more traditional bookies, and like your not necessarily your Bet365s and your Paddy Pals and your Betfairs, but your emerging eSports bookies are using a system called Skim Pay, so that people can basically convert their items into money, bet with the money, and then withdraw the money. So they're doing this just in a little bit of a more regulated fashion. And for me, I think that's where there's possibly a lot of opportunity around that. I'm hoping anyway.
Okay. You touched on the domains earlier, without sort of plugging what you've got for sale. Obviously, I mean, how is the domain scene? I mean, what can someone expect to pay for a strong domain affiliate? Expect to pay that can drive traffic off?
Mid 5 figures.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Okay. I'd like to. Has anyone got any questions from the audience at all? Okay, we have one there. Can I actually? We have a spare? All right, we'll have to bring the mic back. We've only got one handheld today for some reason. Austerity.
Hi. I have two questions, actually. The first one is, how do you really compile the odds properly, and how do you stay ahead of the game? Because with every new patch or a new form team, like in football or anything else, you have historic data to be based on. If you have a new map coming out, a new a weapon getting buffed, or a new team being formed, how do you make sure your odds are proper and you have your profit margin, that you're better than the punter?
Okay. Right.
With Pinnacle, we're sorry for the shameless plug, but it's the only way I can answer the question. Pinnacle are only as smart as our customers. We don't restrict winning customers, and so because of that, we can use customers' information to help offer such sharp lines and minimal margins. So if we've got a customer who's ahead of the game and they know about esports and they know that this new patch means Juggernaut is stronger than ever before, and they start betting into a team after the draft, and that's how they're doing it, then we can see that customer is a particularly sharp customer betting into us, because we can use that information because we don't restrict winning customers. Other bookmakers, traditional bookmakers, tend to copy. So we can use our customers' information because we're only as smart as they are. And we are able to use their information to help sharpen our lines. And that's how we stay not ahead of the game, but online.
Yeah, on that as well, obviously if you're from a more recreational book, the margin that's charged on all the bets is so hard to beat, even as a shrewd punter, that it's not necessarily as big a concern as you might think. Obviously, if you want to go into the low margin, high volume game like Pinnacle, obviously it's a massive concern, but if you're on a 10-15% over round on a 1x2, it's pretty hard to beat, even if you know what you're looking for as a punter.
Okay, we have another one. We're gonna let's get this one fixed. Hello.
And I guess in the same line as well, match fixing. A lot of the players in esports team are just not as controlled, as earning as much as professional football players and whatnot. Is there a lot of match fixing going on in esports betting as well?
Sorry, could you repeat the last line? I didn't quite catch it.
Basically, is there a lot of match fixing or the risk of match fixing in esports betting as well?
I think the risk of it occurred initially. Don't get me wrong, there's still the issue of it, like there is in tennis or any other sport. There is an esports integrity unit to try and prevent match fixing. And we, again, because of the fact we don't restrict winning customers, we're able to see those that have previously bet on fixed matches and use them as a flag or an indicator to when another match might be fixed. So it's sort of learning from past mistakes. We are forever looking at betting patterns to try and indicate where a game might be fixed. But in terms of them not being paid as much as other athletes or sports, at the very highest level, I mean, the International had a prize pool of over $24 million. There are the big tournaments for the upper echelon of the players. At a lower level, yes, it is susceptible, but I think there's a lot of effort going in from the operator side. Well, I can speak definitely on behalf of Pinnacle, and from the community to prevent it. People don't want match fixing. This is a genuine sport. They want this to be treated with the same authority as any other game.
Yeah, the top tier, there is no match fixing. The players are paid huge sums of money now. Your salaries are $25K a month if you're a top CS player, plus you're probably going to make 6 figures in prize money a year. There's no fixing at the top level. In the lower echelons, yeah, there's fixing, but if you're offering odds on an online league match that has literally no benefit to either team of winning, and you're letting someone come in and take out $5,000, well, that's on you, right? You just need to set your limits appropriately. People, if you're betting between players that get paid $100 a month salary and you're letting people take out $5,000, then obviously, yeah, there's that susceptibility. But if you set your lines appropriately and let your punter take out 200 quid on it, then obviously there's a lot less risk, and obviously there's going to be a lot of red flags if you suddenly see 15 people come on for the same selection. At the top level, no, it's clean. There's not really a risk from that perspective.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I was saying on the match fixing thing, I mean, in terms of you say it does go on at lower levels, I mean, the publishers stay very silent, don't they? They don't really get involved. They keep it very much at arm's length. It's almost as if the betting doesn't take place. I mean, even with the skin betting scandal, they didn't really say very much, did they? Until the scandal broke, and then they did the cease and desist letters. But they've never really commented on it. And I mean, why is that? Do you think it's necessary for them to kind of have this overarching? Because ultimately they own the sport, don't they? You know, you've got the organisers beneath doing the tournaments. But would it be useful? Do you think that publishers do need to get involved to kind of, implement that overarching structure?
Yeah,
hand down the codes of conduct and stuff.
I mean, I think that the publishers are keeping an eye on this. It's just in the background, and it really varies by publisher as well. Okay. They do take action. They ban players when they catch them. They listen to, ESIC and the members of that, and anyone that flags up anything dodgy to it. So yeah, I think that that what's being done at the moment is fine. I don't really see that as something that people are like knocking down the doors for more involvement. Probably the opposite.
All right. Okay.
I mean, I think it gets more attention than because the skin betting is a self-created economy, because the games themselves determine what the value of a item is based on the rarity. So I think that's probably why it's getting more attention than perhaps if it was traditional betting. But there is action being taken for players, for teams, to try and tighten this up. It is, I think, at the time appropriate in relation to the action is proportional to the event that's going on.
Okay. And you're one of the operators. You're a member of eSIC, aren't you? So you feed, you provide.
But we don't do anything with skin betting.
Okay. No, I mean, in terms on the real money side. So you do feed. Okay. Do you have any more questions from the audience? I think we're just coming to the end of our slot now, so it's going to be your last chance to ask any questions. Okay. On that note, I'd like to wrap it up. We have a morning networking break coming up. We'll grab a coffee, and I'd just like to, a nice round of applause for Alex and for Luke for a great discussion. Thank you.